I'm gonna record now. All right, so get started in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I actually don't know how to start this, guys. Never mind. How do I how do I open? I don't know how should I open? Should I be like,
Um,
I guess just
let me start opening?
we'll be
also, just so you guys know,
Hi, I'm Monique Kaur.
I am Jenna Jansen.
and I'm Lee Greenwald, and we're going to be presenting some nonprofit information today.
For starters, let's begin with the background. Every week, our community's farmers and small businesses gather in downtown Harrisonburg at the Turner Pavilion to create an atmosphere where local businesses can thrive and buyers can have the opportunity to connect with the sellers. This, of course, is what we all know and love as Harrisonburg's Farmers Market. For nearly 30 years, the market has operated as an incorporated association, functioning much like a nonprofit organization, but without the official status. Not many understand the reasoning behind why an organization would want to become a nonprofit, but there is more to it than just tax exemption. It can include the support of sponsors, untaxed donations, and opportunities for the community to grow as a whole, as well as the farmers market. We hope this presentation will help you understand what a nonprofit organization and what some of the potential benefits the HFM might find if they went this route are presented well. Benefits include tax deduction or exemption, access to grants, and more. What is a nonprofit organization? Nonprofit organizations are a lot like businesses, but they do not operate for profit, meaning that all profits are put back into the business, not distributed to the shareholders. Also, these organizations do not pay taxes on the profits they make, which helps them make money to pay costs and then provide for donations, which are typically presented in their mission and or to donate to other nonprofits in the area. As a vendor, you may be concerned about this shift. Maybe you're wondering how you would make money if the HFM is not for profit. The key thing to remember is that vendors operate as separate entities from the HFM nonprofit and would still make a profit. Basically, none of the money the vendors make, ignoring the costs and expenses, wouldn't be headed anywhere other than their pockets. Vendors are a legally separate entity from the farmers market. On accounting records, the nonprofit has its own equity, its own liabilities, and its own costs or expenses. None of these would affect the money that the vendors make. It just has a change on the taxes of the nonprofit, the organization of it, and the donations. It helps the vendors more than one would assume. It may seem to vendors that all the benefits only support our nonprofit organization, when in reality it can play hand in hand. Some companies may feel more comfortable to host events in the local area of the farmers market rather than not, and that would help the company grow, the company and the community grow. As the nonprofit receives more money through grants, it may be easier to advertise and attract even more consumers in the area. Overall, the transition to a nonprofit could increase the amount of support or money the market receives and has a positive impact on vendor incomes as well, but it would also help the businesses around Harrisonburg.
There are 4 different organizational options for farmers markets looking to become a nonprofit. The first and most prevalent is a 501c3. A 501c3 organization focuses on public education and decreasing tensions in the community, among other things. A 501c4 focuses on the common good of a community. A 501c5 promotes the interests of producers, and a 501c6 strives to improve conditions for a certain business group. For many reasons, we believe a 501c3 is a preferred option for a farmers market because all donations are tax deductible under this status, which can greatly increase funding options.
The status, as already discussed, that would be most effective for the farmers market would be a 501c3.
There are some major benefits that can come with a nonprofit status. Some of these include that donations are tax deductible, which really increases the funding opportunities. You can also obtain an exemption from corporate income taxes and, in many cases, state sales taxes. There are also grant opportunities that are only available to 501c3 organizations. The IRS also expects a very high level of transparency from nonprofit organizations, which can help keep the organization on mission and achieving their purpose. We talked to local food hub in Charlottesville, Virginia about the benefits and some of the drawbacks of their nonprofit status. Some of the benefits include grant opportunities that can fund safety and training certifications for food producers. They also said that there really was not a lot of significant work required to upkeep a nonprofit status besides their annual reports. And the market is completely funded by grants and donations, so there is no percentage of sales costs to any market vendors. One of the drawbacks they did mention is that some donors can be confused about the difference between the Harrisonburg Farmers Market organization and the individual vendors. While the farmers market may be a nonprofit, all of the vendors can still be a for-profit company.
So like Jenna previously mentioned, there's a lot of funding possibilities once the Harrisonburg Farmers Market would be established as a nonprofit. So these grant funding programs come from either the federal, the state, or the local government. But more likely than not, most grant opportunities would come from the Virginia Farmers Market Association, which provides mini grants that could be $500, or they have grants more currently that are COVID-19 relief grants that could be up to $1,000 or $10,000. It really depends on whatever the market would want to apply for. But the great thing about this is that once there is nonprofit status for the farmers market, they're also eligible for community grants that have an educational purpose. So that would be something like maybe a cooking class or a dietetics and wellness class that would work with the local community to bring more awareness to, you know, healthy eating and healthy dieting. And then the food that's sold at the market could contribute to that lesson. So it'd be a great way to, you know, not only work with the community, but also receive extra funding from the state, federal, or local government. And additionally to grants, there's also sponsorships. So once the market has a formal structure, there's a great sponsorship opportunity within the local community, which is really just a mutually beneficial partnership between local businesses and the farmers market. And some things that we wanted to highlight for you guys are how hospitals and local restaurants could also work with the farmers market, promoting the healthy living lifestyle. So something like Sentara Hospital should come in and, you know, they could sponsor and give some money to the market and then have a booth that would then promote all the positive impacts of the locally sourced food at the market. And the same thing with restaurants. They could have a booth at the market, contribute some money, and then, you know, use food from a couple vendors and have a really healthy and local product that then the community would then learn about at the farmers market, and it would promote both the restaurants and the farmers market at the same exact time. But besides just grants and sponsorships, funding money can be used for a wide array of things. So here are just some 4 things that we wanted to highlight. But marketing would just be like, you know, getting the word out, bringing more customers to the market. Research and development could be either through a survey or like an email blast, and that's just ways to improve the market. Working capital is really just for market employees if they need to buy, you know, they want to buy t-shirts or something to sell at the market, or they need very small like utility things like tape or cones. That's always helpful so they don't have to pay out of pocket. And then finally, community learning, kind of similar to marketing, but it's really just a great way if you have that extra capital through a grant or a sponsorship, just to promote the farmers market more and make sure people are aware of the opportunities that are present almost every weekend. And then finally, so just something to kind of bring it home together is that I wanted to highlight that the Lynchburg Community Market actually applied for a mini grant, and they did actually get that grant, and then they actually partnered with Lynchburg Grows. So they got a grant and they successfully accomplished a sponsorship at the same exact time. So essentially what they did is they applied for a PPS mini grant in an undisclosed funding amount, but then what they did with that is they partnered with Lynchburg Grows, which is a greenhouse, and with that they expanded employment opportunities through the market and Lynchburg Grows, and they also diversified the produce that they brought to the market. So not only did this help employees with, you know, some funding, but it also made the market just a better place to be for consumers in the community overall. So it's a really great way to promote the market, and it happened very locally in Lynchburg, so it could definitely happen in Harrisonburg as well.
The next thing we want to cover is how to develop a board. There are multiple different ways that you could go about this, which include having a board of directors that is mainly just vendors, and that would be a vendor led board. So that would be something that you would get help from, just like, the vendors that already know what's going on in the community, which is one of the bigger perks of having a board that is led by vendors. And another option is to have one vendor and then the rest of the members be anyone else from the community that was willing and happy to help with the board. They would be able to discuss what's going on in the community in the case that we want to help our local community with the money that we get from a nonprofit. And the vendor would be able to talk on behalf of other vendors. And the third option would be to have a third party as our board. And if we do that, then we will be able to have a company partner up with our farmers market. But the only weakness with that is that that company, most likely than not, does not know what the vendors really need or what the community really needs. So the first two options are the ones that we're mainly leading towards. The board's responsibilities there's like a long list, but they include, so to start off, we're going to choose directors, and then those directors are the board. They will choose a name, and then they will also appoint a registered agent. From there, they handle all the paperwork, which can include filing a Virginia nonprofit articles of incorporation. Then they will prepare nonprofit bylaws, and then they will hold an in-person meeting to just legitimize the whole situation as it's working. Then they will obtain an employer identification number, obtain business licenses, file an annual report once this nonprofit has already gone through the works and we need to let our taxation status and etc. go to the IRS. They will also file Form 1023 for federal tax exemption, apply for Virginia tax exemptions, and complete other state reporting and registration requirements. And this will help the board as a whole work with the IRS, and it changes up the responsibilities for the members that are a part of the vending community, a part of the community as a whole, or from the third party partnership. And it will definitely help our nonprofit move into the right direction. The organizational changes that are made, as I've already discussed, are going to be choosing candidates for the Board of Executives. That will be one of our first steps. Then we will choose an agent, and then we will go through with the articles of incorporation and bylaws. And then the Vendors Advisory Committee, which was not discussed, is something that will help our vendors. If we choose to go with a third-party company, we can have vendors that could advise them to go towards the right direction. Or if we choose to have a board of directors or executive, which is just the community and one vendor, then we will use the Vendors Advisory Committee to help them out, understand what vendors want, and head into the right direction as well. Other options for our nonprofit could include a B corporation, a partnership, or a limited liability corporation. This would have the same mission, but it might require that you sponsor their work through the partnership, and you will be the one that's giving the money and the grants to help them continue on their mission. So you would be the one supporting a nonprofit, and that goes for the partnership. The second option is to become a B Corp, or as through the list, it's the first option. They have the same mission, but they are for profit, so tax paying and most of the benefits that come with a nonprofit are wiped out. The final option is an LLC. This is otherwise called a limited liability corporation. Information from Incorporation Paradise, an online source, tells us word for word that LLCs in Virginia have advantages such as low operating costs, and limited liability is equivalent to less chances of getting sued. As already stated, these benefits are not as much as becoming a nonprofit. We want to lead more towards that direction. But if anybody has any questions about if there are other options, those are the three that we would say are more similar than any other.
So to summarize, obtaining a nonprofit status is something that's available as an option to the Harrisonburg Farmers Market. There are certain benefits that this status can lead to, most notably tax-deductible donations, tax-exempt status, and a greater access to funding opportunities. If the Harrisonburg Farmers Market chooses to pursue this route, there are some requirements that would need to be met before filing for the status. We hope this presentation has provided some more information on nonprofit statuses and the options available to the farmers market. And we're really looking forward to helping the farmers market in any way that we can going forward.